Hello and welcome to another episode of the 3 on 3 Hoops Pod, the voice of 3 on 3 basketball and part of the 3 on 3 Hoops Nation, where our goal is to grow a community around the power of 3 on 3 basketball. Today, we're diving into something that every coach, every parent, every player deals with, but doesn't always know how to handle, and that's confidence. And you've seen it before. A kid used to attack the rim suddenly and hesitates on every drive, or a player who used to light it up when practice started. And then when they're in the game, looks like they'd rather be anywhere else but the game. And sometimes they'd walk away from the game completely. So we're going to break down why this happens, how to spot the signs early, and practical ways coaches and parents can help rebuild a player's confidence on and off the court. So, Coach, you've Oh, Coach Jay, I'm with the one and only Coach Jay. Just wanted to mention that he's right there. Coach,
They
you've
know me.
worked
They know me. They know me.
you
We're
you
family. We're the nation.
That's right, that's right. You've worked with many players over the years. When you see kids lose their confidence, what's usually behind that, and what's going on under the surface?
A lot of kids lose confidence when they don't get the results that they think they should be getting. Like you mentioned, touches or just buckets in general. Um, I know this is funny. I know you got a personal story later in the segment, but I'll start with one right now. I had a good friend when we were growing up. When we played, he would miss layups, fast break layups all the time. So his confidence was so shattered that he got to the point to where he would tell us like, "Hey, if I'm going on a breakaway by myself for a wide open layup, make sure you guys are behind me so you can get the rebound." And just that, like that, his confidence was shaken because he didn't get the results he think he should have been getting, which was making those wide open layups, and that resulted in him telling us, "Hey, you guys chase me down the court because I already know I'm going to miss the layup. You guys need to be there for the rebound and get my back." So that's one thing from back in the day, but as a coach now, I recognize it in body language. Just same thing, kids miss layups all the time. And then, they
Mhm.
miss a layup here, miss a layup there. When it's time to come for that third layup, they drive and then they jump stop and then look to pass.
Yep.
Their confidence is shaking. You can see it in their body language, you can see it in their face. So it's something that all players deal with, but it's definitely something that we can all shake back from.
Yeah, exactly. And then a lot of that, like you said, it comes from, just a fear of making mistakes, right? And
Mm.
you get this pressure from coaches or parents and getting lost in 5 on 5 systems. Then just sometimes it's not even basketball, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not about like your skill at all. It's about how a kid feels on the court. If
Yep.
they don't feel like they belong, it doesn't matter how talented they are. They'll start playing small.
Yep.
So,
They start
they'll
to doubt themselves, start to
exactly.
overthink.
They'll start to hesitate. And sometimes they even stop loving the game altogether because of all this. So, and that's as coaches and parents, we definitely don't want to see that. So, and
Yeah.
before we like dive too deep into it, I do think that it's worth talking about signs and the things that you might notice in a player before confidence becomes a bigger issue. So, are there any like I guess signs that you can think of when you're on the sideline or in practice? Um, what are some of the first red flags you look for or you notice when talking about a player's confidence?
Body language is a big one. You start to see a slump in the shoulders.
Yeah,
You start to see
avoiding eye
uh,
contact.
avoiding eye contact. You start to see, yeah, exactly, avoiding eye contact, or your eyes just wander. Period. Instead
Hmm.
of being focused on what's going on, you're looking over in the stands. Lack of intensity on defense. That's one that you see. Um, Getting lost in the corner on offense. That's just like, I don't even want to be involved. I'll just sink back to the corner. Those are like the beginning. Those are the
Yep.
beginning signs of, okay, um, confidence is probably shaken. And as a coach, you need to step in and get that boy or girl before you lose them all the way.
Yep. And then also like, you'll see a player take a shot and they'll, kind of put their head down before going back on defense.
Yep.
Um, just avoiding any kind of risk, just kind of doing whatever coach says all the time, which, you know, is good and bad sometimes because you don't want the player to just be a robot. You don't want your players to just be robots out there.
Yeah.
You want them to, especially in practice, you want them to take some risk, and
Yeah, especially in practice.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I tell my kids all the time. Practice is where you make the mistakes, right?
Hmm.
That's where you try to grow. You try to work on the things that you think you can get off, but it's not quite there yet. You just need more reps at it. And that's what practice is for.
And you also another sign is that they just stop talking on the floor. They're not
Yep.
calling for the ball. There's no communication on defense. They're just become quiet players on the court. Um, and I guess another thing I can think of, just the thing about one of my teammates, overreacting to errors. So
Oh
like
yeah.
slamming the ball down,
Oh yeah.
throwing the ball in in the stands.
Yeah. That's
Just
one too.
and I know a lot of times, you see like like grown men do it in the NBA, but when you're talking about kids, I mean that's kind of a red flag because that shouldn't
Yeah,
really.
that's hidden.
Yeah,
That's actually, people from afar, if you're not really on the inside, if you're on the outside looking in, they'll see that as having a bad attitude. And
hmm,
some of it can be that, but like you said, when you uncover the layers, there's a root issue there. And the root issue
exactly,
is there's a loss of confidence. And a
exactly.
loss of confidence is loss of confidence in teammates
Hmm.
because you start to see kids start to press like, okay, I'm coming down. Oh, I'm not going to even think about passing to these kids because every time I do, they drop the ball, it goes out of bounds, they get it stolen from them. So I'm losing confidence in my teammates now. So when we have a possession when I don't have the ball and they have the ball and we turn it over again for the fourth time, I'm lashing out at them
Yep.
because of my loss of confidence in them.
And there's a frustration that builds. That frustration gets higher and higher and higher, and until it just explodes in some way or another, where a player might slam the ball down. Like you said, that frustration is a feeling. That's real. There's something underneath the root of that feeling. There's something else causing that. Like you said, it could be just frustration with teammates. And
Hmm.
then we can kind of dig even deeper. Like, why are you frustrated with your teammates? Because it seems like I can't do anything right, and my teammates aren't helping me here. So it's not making me look good, and the coach already doesn't think I'm good, and my parents are putting all this pressure. It could be so many things that
Yep.
that's underneath the surface of how a player expresses their lack of confidence. So, and that's the key. So sometimes it's not obvious, and a kid's not going to come up to you and say, "Hey, coach, I've lost my confidence." Well,
Yeah.
sometimes they do. Sometimes I've had players have come up to me, but most of the time, a player is not going to come up to
That's
you.
mostly when they get older and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
they're more self
Exactly.
aware of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those were high school kids that have come up to me. But
Yeah.
as a coach, you have to spot these signs, spot it through what they're showing you on and off the court. And I just want to dive into like my own personal story because this is a subject that hit homes for me a little bit because I am a player in the past that did lose his confidence. And early in my years, I think me and you talked about it a little bit.
Mhm.
I know there was a time when I was playing for an AAU team and I, didn't want to go in the game because the players were doing so well on the court and I'm supposed
You
to
don't
be
wanna
on
mess
this.
it up.
Yeah, and I didn't want to mess up the flow or whatever. And I'm used to, you know, and I think a lot of it had to do with the role I was put in early as a high schooler, and this is talking my early years in high school. I'd say like ninth to 10th grade.
Yeah.
I guess coach noticed that I could shoot in practice. I was a short player. I was like, I guess 5'6", 5'7" at the time, which is, I didn't grow too much after that. But
Yeah.
I was one of the shorter players on the team, and we had, a group of bigs. And I remember this is 1993, 94,
Yep.
when we didn't have a lot of positionless basketball. So if you're short, you were a point guard. If you were a little bit taller, you can be a shooting guard, and bigs play bigs down low. So
Mhm.
it was a lot of that. And so once coach saw that I was basically an undersized point guard, um, or sorry, an undersized shooting guard, he wanted to put me at point, and I couldn't really handle the ball that well, but I could shoot
Yeah.
a little bit. He put me in a role as, okay, we'll bring you off the bench as like kind of our spark or whatever, and we need a couple of threes. But what
Yep.
we didn't, um, we didn't really practice on my shooting in practice. Like there was no individual training for me. Like we did our practices, we did our regular drills, we did our 5-on-5 at the end of practice, and that's it. That was the end of practice. There was no like workout afterwards, or so I never worked on my shooting other than working at home
In
or
practice. Yeah,
in a
okay, yeah.
park. So it was never intentional with a coach. And so what does that do? Okay, that put me into a role. Um, to my I know now my role, which is good, and we'll talk about it later. Like I think having roles on a team is good, but my role was just to be coming off the bench hot as a shooter. So
Yeah,
as soon as I miss a shot, that's my value right there. And if I can't make a shot, that brings my confidence lower and lower, and then the pressure starts to go up. My confidence
yeah.
goes lower, and eventually you just kind of lose all confidence. So
Yeah,
my
you start to think,
confidence
"Oh, coach is gonna stop playing me."
Exactly. My confidence
Yeah.
basically, it hung on me making my first one or two shots. Because I know anytime after that, I felt like I had to prove that, yeah, coach, you're right to put me out here to be a shooter. And if I wasn't feeling that game, if I wasn't feeling it that game or whatever the case may be, I didn't
Mhm.
really know how else to contribute, and so I kind of brought my confidence down. Um, and I went through it, later on in my years also. Just being kind of held in that role my first 2 years, and it was hard for me to find other ways to contribute to the team, and I felt like that's all I was good for, and so it really depended on if I shot well or not, and so that kind of hurt my confidence later. And losing your confidence so young does affect you off the court also. This is something, even at 47, I still in some areas I still feel like I can work on my confidence, or places where my confidence could be a little bit better.
Right.
So it does affect you in, on and off the court, and even going into your adult years. So this is why it's very important as parents, as coaches, that we really focus on building a kid's confidence, because it does carry over later in life. So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why it's important for kids. I feel like they need to play sports, period, because they have that opportunity to gain confidence. They have that opportunity to build relationships
yep,
with not only the players but the coaches. And that's as far as helping kids get their confidence back. I try Me personally, I consider myself a player's coach. Like, I'm intense, during practice. I hold players accountable. I want them to give their all, but outside of practice I invite them to come up and talk to me about anything. It doesn't have to be basketball. It could be about school. It could be about personal life. Inside of practice, I try to create situations where, they're either the primary ball handler or the primary scorer for this particular thing that we just draw, or this
hmm
particular thing that we're practicing today, to give them the opportunity to see the ball go through the basket. That's one thing that I always say also, and this is for all the levels that I coach. Before games, get in the gym, shoot, see the ball go through the basket, because that'll get your confidence going for the game. If you see, okay, I just made 5 in a row. Okay, boom, I just made 8 in a row. Okay, I just
yep,
made 15 out of 30 shots. Okay, your confidence is
yep,
going. So when the game starts, you've already seen yourself about an hour ago making these
yeah.
shots. So when you're in the game and you get the ball, oh, I'm ready to let it fly because I just finished shooting.
Yeah. So when I do coach shooting, when I'm teaching a kid how to shoot, what's the first thing kids want to do when they walk in the gym? You put a basketball in their hand. What's the first thing they want to do, coach?
They wanna go right to the three-point line and just go blast
Exactly. They
it.
want to go right to
Just
the
go
three
launch
point
that thing.
line. They want to go right to the line. They don't even go to the 3 point line anymore. They go to 3 point line, back up a few steps, a few
Yep,
feet, and then go Curry range. So
and then launch the ball instead of shooting it.
exactly. So, but when I teach a player how to shoot, and I can always tell, because I still see this. And here's a little side note. I did make my way to the gym this past week and shot around a little bit at my local gym here. So it's been a while since I shot around, but even I see like young adults coming in. I can tell who's been coached, and who was just
'Cause
kind
they
of
go
like a
right for
playground
that
player.
form shooting drill first.
Exactly. So like
Yep,
we always start with the form shooting, and it's just funny
yep.
to see, like, even I mean I start out like that. So it's funny to see
Me
other like
too.
30-year-olds, just kind of start in front of the basket. They do their form shooting, starting aside. But I tell the players, like, this not only helps you kind of nail down your form, it also helps up here, in your mind too. So,
Yeah,
you want to see the ball go through the net. You don't want your first
Yeah.
4 or 5 shots to hit the rim. And we're talking about the situation I talked about before where I'm off today. I don't know what's going on. Cause I've had players come up to me and it's like, I can't hit anything, coach. And the whole time I've just seen them take threes. That's the only shot that
Yeah.
they ever
Yeah.
took. And said, I can't feel anything. Well, why don't you,
Go make a layup.
yeah, go make a layup first and work your way back.
Go make a layup. And that's
I
all.
mean,
That's what I always. That's my remedy to everything. Go get a layup
but I'm so
or a free
glad you,
throw.
yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that you're building a relationship. That part about building a relationship because that's I love that you said that because that's one of the biggest things that I've learned as a
Mhm.
coach, and that is that one of the biggest things is that confidence issues aren't always about basketball, right? So
Right.
sometimes it's playing time, the amount of playing time they get, and player will lose their confidence, or sometimes it's a role on the team, like I mentioned before. But other times it's stuff like their home situation, school stress. Remember, these kids
I was
go
about to
through,
say what's going on at school.
dude.
When they get to high school, they all like the same girl and all that
Dude,
kind
I
of
I
stuff
I
like that.
could not the social media, the toxicity in social media these days, I know personally, I probably couldn't I don't even know how these kids make it, to be honest with you. They go through a
Man, that's tough.
whole I know there's a lot of stuff that, we say, "Oh, back in my day, we used to handle this, so y'all should be able to handle this." But I'm gonna tell you, these kids have it way tougher than we could ever imagine because everything is
Right.
put on blast on social media. School stress, the social media stress, or just pressure from the parents and the peers. Like some of these, I've had players, and I've had to say this, after I picked my team after tryouts. I've had players just try out on the team. These are high school kids, just
Yeah.
because their parents said they had to. They got to do something.
Yeah.
They don't even want to be out there. You know what I'm
And that's
saying?
and that's bad when it's high. I can understand when they're 6, 7
hmm
years old, but
I've
if you
had
got
high
to
school
make them,
players.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
man, that's not a good look, man.
And that's why building real relationships is, with your players. If you're a coach, you have to build real relationships with your players, and that's why it matters so much because you can't coach confidence if you don't actually
Yeah.
know what's going on with your kids, right? um
Especially because I think you just talked about it just briefly about home situation, man. Like you don't really know what's going on at home. They may not have somebody that they can vent to at home.
mhm.
They may not feel comfortable talking to somebody about what's going on. So I try not to overstep my boundaries. But I'm
Right,
not
yeah.
I'm not the parent, but since I am in a position of authority, I do, just give my best advice. And, I just try to teach through experience.
Yeah.
We both grew up as athletes. And I try to tell the kids all the stuff that you guys are going through now, all the stuff that you're gonna go through, like I already been through it. So trust me, learn
hmm
from my mistakes,
yeah.
learn from my experience, and then just, make it just your best judgments.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, to it's just this goes out again to all the coaches and even parents. Just make sure you keep checking in on your kid. You know what I'm saying? Just and don't even make it about basketball. Just check in on them. And
Yeah.
we get in such a habit like, "What's going on, man? How you doing?" And they'll say, "Fine," and you just move on. Like, no, really, really, really see if they're doing okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, dig a little deeper, and really be intentional. And I really think that coaches should, really spend individual time with each player. Like really, really get to know your team. Because I know that that would have meant a lot to me as a player. Like, other than just going to practice and seeing your coach and going home. You know, um,
Yeah.
not having somebody at home to talk to. A player might not have a lot of friends. You know what I'm saying? So they might only have a coach, and it's important that the coach lets them know, like, hey, whatever you guys go through, whatever you guys want to talk, if you guys feel like you can't talk to anybody, you guys can talk to me. No matter how mad I get on the court, or if I'm yelling on the court, just you come talk to me individually. I promise that my door is always open, and I'll receive you, in a positive way. So it's very important. Yeah, so yeah, you mentioned that you put them in situations where the kids can succeed. That definitely matters. Another thing is just to celebrate celebrate the player's progress, and not just the outcome, right? So
Yeah.
say a player's keeps missing a shot. You want to really notice where they came from and where they are at now. But don't celebrate. Oh man, finally you're making some shots. Good shot, good shot, good shot. Don't keep saying good shot if they make it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that was I like how you got that shot up. You're making quicker decisions. Your
Mhm.
form looks so much better. Stuff like that. You celebrate the progress. Don't just tell them that they're good when the shot goes in. And you can apply
Yeah.
that to other skills of basketball. So,
Yeah, that's super big.
mhm. All right. So, also, um, this is just another side thing. I'm just thinking about some of my past experiences. Coaches, talk to the parents. Like just be more communicative with your parents, especially if you notice like a kid. If you notice a kid is, kind of lost his confidence, and just talk to the parents just when necessary. Sometimes the pressure at home is the root. If you sometimes you can get kind of a formulated story from what the parents are telling you. Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
been going through it with his sister or something like that, or he's dealing with a breakup right now, or he's been kind of isolating himself, in his room playing video games and blah blah. There might be something there. So yeah, just make sure you know all your players. That's all we're saying. So
Yep.
one of the biggest things that I've learned as a coach is that confidence isn't built through lectures. It's built through experiences. A kid doesn't believe they can make a shot until they've actually made it, and
Yep.
they don't believe that they can beat their man unless they've actually done it, in practice or in the games or whatever. So that's why creating reps and safe environments is so critical. Now, well, Coach and I just want to go over some practical coaching tips that for building confidence. And here's where coaches and parents can make the biggest difference. Coach and I have already mentioned some already. Confidence isn't built from just telling a kid be confident. You have to build through experience. So we're gonna just give some quick practical tips here. And one
Yep.
of the things that I did as a coach was create clear roles. So I think I mentioned to you
Yeah.
before that I used to put roles on index cards and define the role on the back of the card and give out to each player. So that's a good thing. Just don't do roles like you're our 3-point shooter, or you're our, you
Gosh.
know, I was gonna say Vinny Microwave Johnson, but nobody's gonna know who that is.
The
And then
microwave.
nobody current or nobody in new school is going to know who that is, but just be careful of the roles that you create, and make sure that you can build off the progress on in those roles. Another is to create small sided games, 3-on-3. Obviously we're a huge believer in that, and it's just where so everybody can touch the ball, get a chance to touch the ball, and see just the same thing that we've been preaching pretty much the whole series of this podcast. So Coach, what are some other ways that we can help kids build their confidence?
Don't only criticize, when they do wrong.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
balance that with the positive things they did. For example, hey, you got all the way to the basket, that was good, but next time you gotta make the layup.
Mm.
You know, something like that. Like, you did everything right, but you gotta catch the ball. That's definitely my approach. Like you gotta give them the good, but you
Yeah, you
didn't
got
do
to
this part.
use the
Yeah,
use the sandwich method, right? So
exactly,
you got your
exactly. You know what I'm
your
saying? So you
positive
gotta,
talk, your where things could be better, and then end it again with positive.
yeah, man. And just like, okay, now go back out there next time, make the layup.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
things like
Encouragement.
that.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Be specific for sure. That's why coaches, you gotta know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Don't just run
Definitely
around and
be.
say good shot, or
Yeah,
good
yeah,
job.
exactly.
Tell them why.
How, like, why is it a good shot?
Yeah.
And like you said, you were spot on when you said, uh, you know, a good shot, or don't only praise them when they make a shot, because sometimes a good shot doesn't go in, right?
Yep.
It goes in, swing, backside corner, shoot in flow in motion. Oh, it didn't go in. Good shot. Good shot, because you were wide open. You made the right decision. It just didn't go in, right?
Yep.
And then lastly, which is really my
Our last
favorite thing,
episode.
is yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, Watching film, I know it's a little different on for youth. But if you guys do have any kind of film or video that you can show kids
Dude.
of themselves playing,
Mm, So
that's highly encouraged.
if you're watching YouTube right now, I'm holding up my cell phone. There's no excuse not to get film on your
Yeah.
if you're a parent, on your child, if you're a coach, if you want to point something
Yeah,
out
don't be out
quickly.
here only just trying to get highlight film. We want to see
Exactly.
game. We
Yeah,
want to see
exactly.
game film. I want to see 5 possessions of offense, 5 possessions of defense of your kid.
I've taken
or
my phone
player?
out during practice before, and I've filmed the player just to show him how he brings the ball up the court. Like I'll just kind
Yeah.
of record as as we're either scrimmaging and I just kind of every time I want to show him how the difference between pace and what he's doing, and I just I use film to kind of show them what they're doing well, and then like you said, not just their mistakes.
Mhm.
So those are good. I like everything you said, and just like one of my favorite things is just celebrate the right things. Like the effort, communication, and all that stuff, not just the made shots. So I think that's huge. Let's see. What else? What else? What else? One big thing I do want to say, the most important thing out of all of this is that you build trust, right?
Yeah.
Your words mean
You
nothing
gotta you
if
gotta you gotta get yeah, I don't mean to cut you off,
no, you're
but
fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, you trust is number 1.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just like you mentioned earlier, build these relationships with these kids.
yeah.
If they don't trust
Trust
you
is number 1. Yep.
if they don't trust you, these words are so hollow to them that, they're gonna go right over their head if they don't
And
trust you.
I
So,
even mean like the coaches that coach like junior varsity and varsity level, like even those guys that's never gonna touch the floor.
mhm,
You still have to, hey man, how's the third period?
mhm.
You know? Or oh, you got a new car? Bro, don't be out here getting in accidents. Don't be out here crashing, man. I hope you watching both. You
Yeah,
gotta
don't just talk to the star
because
players.
yeah, exactly. You gotta be, you gotta now obviously you're gonna I hate to say favoritism because it's not I don't
No,
like that word,
that's
but
real, that's real.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
but
something we don't like to
you're
admit,
gonna
but it's real.
yeah, the you can't forget guy 11, 12, 13, 14 on the bench. You still
Yep.
gotta have that relationship because to be honest, they're gonna be key in practice.
A lot of it has to do with because like especially the players that you say is going to we're really trying to get the team to where you want the team to be. It's
Mhm.
because they're matching your energy, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, like all to me all players are equal. um you will kind of you'll naturally react more to the players that kind of match your energy and
Uh-huh.
they kind of grab on your philosophy, your coaching philosophy a little quicker than the others.
Yep.
Just don't, like coach said, don't forget the 11th through 14th or whatever player on your bench,
Mhm.
because they're just as important. And
They're just
I
as
think
important. You need them in practice throughout the season because they're going to be
mhm,
the ones that's on the scout team. They're going to be the ones that's going to be giving you the looks for the quote unquote star
yep.
players. So they're just as important. So
And I think it's
um,
important to shield these players from the toxicity from social media, and because that's where they get all their belief from. Like, oh, you're trash because you only get 2 minutes a game. No, you don't
yeah,
know what's going on behind the scene. Like, so you got to let these players know how important they are to the team and what our main goal is here. And our goal as coaches is just to get you to where you want to be, right? And maybe even help you look further than that. Just let these kids know that it's okay to make mistakes without being embarrassed. Kids love when they feel safe enough to take risks. So, and this wouldn't
no,
be a 3-on-3 podcast without at least pointing out where we've seen 3-on-3 help here. I mean, I've seen it when I started included in my practice later in my coaching years. When I started including 3-on-3 in my practices and my tryouts, just when players touch the ball more, make more decisions, and get more reps, their confidence comes back faster. I've seen it in leagues that I've run. I'm sure you've seen it too, Coach. Now three on coach, and I'll say this: 3-on-3 isn't the only answer. It's just one tool in the toolbox, right? So what really matters is just creating environments where kids feel involved and where kids feel challenged and supported, no matter what format you use. So um, if there's one thing we hope you take away from today's episode, it's that confidence is fragile, and it's built over time, but it can be lost quickly. And as coaches and parents, we can play a huge role in helping players believe in themselves again, not just as basketball players, but also as people. As kids when they're in school and as they grow into an adults and live in their adult life. Um, so if you got something out of this conversation, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share this episode with another coach, a parent, or player who might need to hear it. And if you want resources to help develop your players including our free 7 proven 3-on-3 drills guide. You can grab it at 3on3hoopsnation.com.
Yeah, we had over 50 people this week download the guide. So make sure
50.
3on350 3on3hoopsnation.com. Go get the guide.
Yeah. All right. So, Coach Jay, any final thoughts on this topic or anything else I guess you want to say?
That's all I got, man. That's all I had. Just get the reps. Get the reps. You don't learn how to shoot a basketball by reading a book titled How to Shoot a Basketball. You got to actually go out there and do it. So get the reps, get your confidence up, and you'll see the results.
It's like Karate Kid, right? He tried to learn karate by reading, how to do karate book, and
Yeah.
Mr. Miyagi came and picked. So fall in love with the process. That's one of my favorite,
Yeah.
the things that I took away from Kobe Bryant and how he was. He really stressed, fall in love with with the progress or with the process. Fall in love with the process. So, all right.
Yep.
So that'll do it. Thank you again for listening to this episode. Again, go to 3on3hoopsnation.com, join the nation. It's a growing community that we're putting together just to show the power of 3-on-3 basketball. So that's it. And we'll see you when you see you.